if you're into picking wild mushrooms. There's a lot of ways to preserve them, well, a few ways I should say, and it kind of depends on the species. Today we're primarily looking at porcini mushrooms, hexan rolling, which I have to look that name up in English, and birkenpilz, which is like a birch boleta. Mushroom season just really popped in the last week, so we were able to get a ton, and I mean more than you can just eat before they go bad. We're focusing mainly on these Boletus species, so like the Porcini, Boletus edulis, and the hexan rollingen, which are like translates to witch's bolet. Both are excellent, really good mushrooms. Sometimes very hard to find, and they're also really expensive. If you buy them dehydrated, 100 grams can run you anywhere, starting at the lowest I've seen is maybe like $25 for 100 grams. So here we have some of the porcini or steinpilz, Boletus edulis, king bolets. That's about 100 grams here. And the hexan rolling, it's almost 200 grams. And I'm still in the process. Now you can use a food dehydrator if you have one. You don't really have to go buy one if you don't. My favorite method is just use my oven. I turn it on the fan setting and put it on the lowest temperature possible, which is 50 degrees Celsius. I also crack the door. I put something like a wooden spoon or something to crack the door so the humidity can escape. What I'll actually do, because it'll take a few hours, it depends how thin you slice them, but what I'll actually do is keep it closed for a little bit until I start to see moisture collect inside the oven door, and then I crack it open. It kind of speeds up the process. If I'm going to leave the house, I just turn the heat off and leave the fan on. That'll do it too. So another method you could do is, I just saw a picture of, stop stretching the cow, on a Facebook page of someone who got like a clothes drying rack that had several racks on it and put that in front of their radiator. Or you can put a fan in front of it, you know, so all these will work. The oven method, I think, is the quickest and easiest. So I've still got, I don't know, this is a few, maybe like 3 kilos, I don't know, something like that. It's quite a bit heavy to dry out. So we'll start with this one. And that's the nice thing about these porcini and the hexan rolligans. They will stay good in your fridge. Keep them in a paper bag, not a plastic bag, and they'll stay good for like 3 to 4 days in your fridge. So this is monster porcini. Of course, you want to clean it off as best as you can. These have already been cleaned, just a little couple spots that I missed. A couple ways to clean these. Do not use water. That'll ruin them. Scrape it with a knife. I usually cut the parts off with a lot of dirt at the stem. And some kind of like brush to brush off any dirt or leaves. Also, what works really good on the more stubborn parts is just get like a piece of paper towel, and a moist paper towel, and that helps as well. Alright, so all we're going to do now is just slice these up and try to get them as equal as possible. It's not a big deal. As they're drying out, you know, you can see if some pieces need longer, that you cut thicker. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut this in half. And if you look, these are just beautiful. No worms, which is pretty rare for a mushroom like this size. And then I just start slicing them. I'm good at doing it a little bit thick because I have so many to do, but I'll just leave them in a little bit longer because I have to go run some errands anyways. And like I said, I'll just turn the heat off on the oven and leave the fan on. And I'll just take a tray, rack like this, that works best, and lay it out on the rack. Try to not pile pieces on each other as best as you can. But you'll see like one mushroom like this will probably take me 2 racks. So it can be when you get a lot, you know, it'll take a bit of work, but it'll pay off. Because these, once they're dried, they'll stay good for years. I recently found a bag I forgot about of hexan rolling that was 2 years old, and cooked with them, and it was still just tasted like amazing. These are great fresh as well, but dehydrated, they're actually really good. You just it's a little bit different. Like some people would even say they're better. What I'll do is just soak them in hot water for about 10 minutes, and they're ready to cook with. And that water you soak them in, it makes an excellent mushroom stock. So that's the process. Just cut them, lay them out. And you can freeze these too. There's a couple things I don't care about with freezing. One, if you have a lot, you need a really big freezer. It's going to take up a lot of space. Two, it changes the texture of them. They don't come out the same when they're frozen. And also, they're going to stick together. It's kind of a pain in the butt. If you want to freeze them properly, you got to also put them on a rack like this and freeze them first, then put them in a plastic bag. Otherwise, they're going to be all frozen in one chunk together. And yeah, I mean, personally, I found I prefer them dehydrated. They're going to last longer as well, because frozen, the longer you leave them in there, they're going to get freezer burn, of course. All right, so I'll finish cutting these off the camera because it's going to take a few minutes, but that's the process. Yeah, I mean, I still have some, we got some of these birch Boletus, Birkenpilz, which are excellent. I'm gonna do the same with these. Still have more Porcini, tons of, I mean, we got really a lot. And also, these are some of my favorites, which I'm gonna actually cut for you now so you can see, because I love cutting these. These are the Witch's Bolete. There's two different kinds. There's what we call the net hexa and the flokies. So they're both, I don't know, there's some weird things people will say about them that they're, well, of course, these have to be cooked thoroughly before you eat them. But there used to be books saying, like, if you mix this with alcohol, it could be poisonous, which is, I'm still alive. Like a lot of wild mushrooms, some people can have a sort of like allergic reaction to them, and they're not going to kill you if these are like this species. It'll just give you a tummy ache, you know, that you might have to use the toilet a bit. So if you have never eaten these before, obviously try a little bit at first and see how your reaction is. If it's not good, you know, okay, don't eat these. Normally what I'm going to do is not mix these up, but you can tell. These are the Witch's Boletes, and these are the Steinpilz. There's a big difference in color. But just to be safe, I won't mix them up on the same tray, and I keep them separated. Put them in a Ziploc bag. Make sure they're really dry though. You want them to be brittle. If there's still any moisture in there, they can cause mold and they're going to go bad. So even after they're totally dry, when I put them in the Ziploc bag, I don't seal the bag right away too, because steam might still be coming out. Another trick is get those little silica packets that come in like beef jerky or whatever. Throw a couple in there. That'll help preserve it. You can put it in plastic bags or jars, whatever. All right, so got a few of these really nice conditioned. Still got a leaf on it. Hexen rolling, these Hexen Boletes. So before I finish here, I just love cutting this. I'm gonna show you why. Go ahead and cut it in half. And you see this beautiful yellow color that quickly starts turning to blue. It'll turn a really dark blue. You'll see by the time I start cutting it, the pieces that are cut are already turning like almost black. I don't know if you can see that on the camera so good, but you'll see as I start slicing it. And when you cook these, they turn this really great looking golden brown color. And you know, the porcini is one of like the prized mushrooms for people into mushrooms, for their culinary value and just as a mushroom hunter, they're so great to find. But I honestly think these taste better. But do a mix with them, you cannot go wrong. And some mushrooms like these Birkenpilz, the birch Boletes, you know, they have more of a neutral taste, you could say, compared to these. But if you mix them, they kind of take on the flavors of the other mushrooms, so it makes a really good mix. You can see, by the time I'm done cutting this one, these pieces have gotten really dark. You can watch them just change color in front of your eyes. I don't know how well the camera's picking it up, but it's a really, I don't know, that's why I love cutting these. And for this dehydration method, you could pretty much do it with any mushroom, just something like parasol mushrooms. It's going to turn more like to a powder. They don't dry in like a nice preserved piece like these Steinpilz do. But yeah, they'll just turn to a powder, which is also very good to cook with. But like I said, these Boletus, like the Steinpilz, the Porcini, and the hexen mushrooms, are really forgiving for preservation because you can keep them in the fridge 3 to 4 days before they start to go bad. Where there's some species like shaggy manes, you gotta eat those within hours or they're gonna turn to like this black ink that's not so good anymore. Alright, so as you can see, these went from this kind of like bright yellow on the inside to this dark blue, kind of stained blue color. Also, if you bruise them, it'll do the same thing. Some other species of mushrooms will do that, so of course do your research for your area of what you're picking. Make 100% sure you got the right one. There are some Boletus species that are poisonous, or toxic I should say, and yeah, and it, you know, just because it looks like the same ones you're finding in your part of the world doesn't mean they're the same ones I'm finding. So that's it. I'm gonna finish cutting these up, lay them all out, and get to dehydrating. Thanks for watching.